This is the road. This is the road.
Welcome to the 12th Man podcast, opinionated debate on everything Borough. Let's have it.
Sandbox, can you read that? No, we go. No sluts in. Get it. You'd say, Red Bull boss, and that's a finisher. Kick it. Fuck us.
And away we go again. Here we go. Welcome to the 12 Man podcast. Live, uninterrupted, and this could be interesting, this chat, couldn't it? But here we go. You got me, Steve Jackson. I'm in the main chair as usual. Mr. John Cutler, is with me. Evening, Cut.
Evening, gentlemen.
How are we doing? You all right?
Yeah, not so bad.
Good. Live on my screen. Hello. I've got Mr. John Donovan. Evening, John Don.
Now then, you all right?
I love the top, by the way.
All right, thank you.
Who's on the back?
George Friend, not literally, just his name.
I did what? Right, okay. That's yeah, fair enough.
Nobody else surprised it doesn't say Donovan.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised actually, but never mind. And we've got Mr. Steve Dixon. Evening, Dicko.
Evening, chaps. All right.
I am. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Welcome
Good.
to all the listeners as well and the viewers.
Hi. Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll cut you off because I know you're going to kick off in about 5 minutes, so I'll leave you stew for a minute. Welcome. We're going to talk Coventry and Huddersfield coming up. We'll talk transfer news or rumours. We saw one just before we came in that I want to read out. But let's start with Saturday. Cut, we met up for a pre-match beverage. What was your optimism like?
Before kick-off, I know transfer-wise, everything hasn't been as perfect as we wanted, but that is what it is. I still thought we had a strong team. We had a strong bench. I was fairly confident before the game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I was as well. I said it's the whole. I mean, talk to me about the atmosphere as well, because obviously we were in the fan zone. It was packed. It was lively. It was raring to go, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think there's still a good buzz around the club, and what we saw, especially under Michael Carrick last year. Okay, it fell off a bit at the end, unfortunately, but I think the fans can see the direction that the club want to play in, and certainly that style of football will attract fans in, and let's hope we see plenty of it this season. Yeah,
I hope so. John Don, obviously I know you've got your own bits and pieces and places to go that you meet all the lads up before you get to the game. What was pre-match like for you? Obviously a bit of time since obviously the last competitive game of the season. How were you feeling before the big kick-off on Saturday?
I was looking forward to this one more than I have done most seasons, first match of the season, because of how we performed under Carrick last year. I was looking forward to it, and I went down for an hour or so to the Bloom in Middlesbrough to see the lads who do the Borough Shape Museum.
Yeah.
They're doing the Janinu exhibition, and it was really good. I had a chat to both of them, Jamie and Mark, and and what plans they have for the rest of the season. And it's brilliant what they do. Hell of a turnout as well. So yeah, that's how I started my afternoon. Then went for a couple of beers nearby, and then tried to dodge the rain and get to the ground. But yeah, I was looking forward to it, and you could tell by going to the ground, it was going to be a big turnout. Well, we knew that anyway, didn't we, from what the club had put out with regards to ticket sales. So yeah, the buzz was there. I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. It was the place was packed. It was everywhere was packed on Saturday. It was a really good atmosphere in the town itself and everywhere. Diggo, what was your feelings pre-match?
I was pretty much what John Donovan said, the polar opposite. Last week, I'd said I was apprehensive, and I was obviously looking forward to the game as a supporter, but I've got to be honest, I didn't really fancy it. I sort of called it last week what I thought Millwall might do and how they might get in amongst it and where they might see where feelings being. And I was obviously hoping for the complete opposite. I was hoping that I was going to be totally wrong. The big crowd, like I said last week, I was hoping was going to inspire it and maybe push some of the lesser players' levels up, playing in front of a full Riverside. And so before the game, I was hoping that they were going to prove me massively wrong, but unfortunately, they proved a lot of what I said on the podcast last week's correct. So I was apprehensive, looking forward to it, but also extremely worried of what was possibly going to unfold. And that's the way I felt when I seen the team sheet as well. That's exactly how I felt.
Well, I'll start with you then. When you saw the team sheet, like what changes would you have made to that starting 11 that came out at 2:00?
I've not been sold on the idea of Morgan Rogers being a striker. I don't believe he is a striker. I think if he plays 46 games up front by Middlesbrough this season, he'll be lucky to get 5 or 6 goals. I don't think that's his game. I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player for Middlesbrough because I think he's talented. I think behind the striker, playing on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side of one of the three behind, I think he's going to be a decent player for it. The lad's a talented player, but he's not a striker. So straight away, I thought we'll look powder puff up front. Matt Crook sitting behind him, and Morgan Rogers in front of him. For me, against Millwall, for me was never going to work. I was hoping for different, but expected. So when I seen that, straight away alarm bells were ringing. How we're going to score? Obviously, massive alarm bells at the full-back positions, which we all knew was going to be a worry. And we knew Millwall obviously would try and exploit that. So Paddy McNair, Hayden Coulson at full-back, big red flashing lights. What's going to happen with them at full-back, which again, proved costly. So that's that. They were my big concerns looking at the starting 11. The rest of it, pretty much okay, but you can't go into a big first game of the season with 3 or 4 positions, is a worry against a good side like Millwall and a decent manager like Gary Rowett, who will know exactly how to exploit those weaknesses.
John Don, how did you feel about starting 11?
Well, we discussed it last week. I would have played Rav somewhere across the back 4. Mm-hmm. Other than that, our hands were tied. Really, we didn't have a great deal of options, but I still thought we could get something from the game. I mean, as the game transpired, I don't really agree with Dicko that Millwall were much better than us. I mean, yes, they had a decent season the last season, just missed out in the playoffs. We had a decent season. I just think it was 2 teams in transition, and there was very little between the 2 on the day. But as for our starting 11, I was comfortable with it. I didn't expect anything more, to be honest.
I didn't actually say Millwall were better than it, by the way. I just mentioned the Middlesbrough side of it. I didn't say Millwall were better than Middlesbrough on the day. I just said I had massive concerns going into the game that I thought Millwall could exploit. And that's okay. Well,
yeah, and you were sort of like talking about Millwall from last season's perspective, and I appreciate that because that's all we've got to go on. But neither team on Saturday showed anything like the form that they had last season. So, like you say, it was two teams that were below par from last year's performances.
Yeah, 100%.
I apologise if I misunderstood you there, but I don't think there was a great deal between the teams, and you know, I'm not worried at all about Middlesbrough at the moment, because I know that we'll get players in, we'll get better. I would have preferred a better start, obviously, but it wasn't to be, and I'm not going to go crazy over one result. There's 45 results to come.
See, yeah, it's interesting how we all watch the same game and we see different things, because I was really impressed with Millwall. I know this is a Middlesbrough podcast, but they had 3 really good chances in the first half, 2 of which fell to their star player, and he would normally have buried them. And they had a few decent chances in the second half before they scored. I think they'll have a really good season. I was quite impressed with them on Saturday, I've got to be honest.
They've done a job. They've done a job on it, didn't they? They sat deep. The new Middlesbrough are going to have a lot of the ball, a lot of possession, and I think we had something like 68, 69% of possession, and we dominated the ball. But Millwall knew Middlesbrough were always going to do that. But what they also knew was we had some real weaknesses to exploit on the break, and what they'd done very well, Millwall, was break quickly on when they could and get the ball in behind the fullbacks, especially second half, and they actually had the best chances within the game without actually being the better side, if that makes sense. I thought Middlesbrough were quite comfortable in possession, but without any penetration, without any real shots on goal. The goalkeeper wasn't worked enough for me. We weren't getting enough crosses in the box. But Millwall, for me, tactically wise, were very good. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what weaknesses to expose, and they did that. And I think the first goal in that game was always going to be massively important. I actually think if Middlesbrough had scored the first goal, we would have probably nicked it, which we could have done. Obviously, the goal was disallowed for the ball being out to play first half. If that had went in, Middlesbrough might have nicked the game, and Millwall would have had to change their tactics then as well. But when Millwall scored, I turned to my dad at that moment and just said, that's game over for me. Because you could see that Middlesbrough were lacking in quality and ideas in the most important area of the pitch, which is the front end.
I think we've got a Facebook comment from Daniel Preston, who said he was hopeful we would get a point, but a poor showing. Rodgers is a link-up striker. We're crying out for a number 9. And also, he doesn't get this short corner fetish.
I mean, we'll go into that as we go on and chat about this. But it's difficult to say where we were. I'm trying not to be harsh. I won't be harsh. I'll keep that back. I thought Millwall were very good. I thought Millwall were very, very good at what they did. They weren't spectacular, but they were good at what they did. And they knew that up to 30 yards from their own box, we were going to have the ball. We were going to have the ball, and they had to break on us to get any sort of success. And it worked, to be honest. It worked. And it did exploit us, especially on the fullback areas. And I know that's going to be a big talking point as we go on, the fullbacks. What did you think about how the fullbacks actually did on Saturday?
I mean, Coulson's going to get a lot of stick, but to be honest, I didn't think he was particularly bad. You've got to look at some of the more experienced players in that team. And for me, I think we had maximum 3 players, 7 out of 10 for the starters. And I think, and in that, I would say Hackney and McGree, because they worked really hard. And Senny Dieng made a decent save at 0-0. And then Silvera, when he came on, he was the bright spark for me. So, and the rest of them, I would say 6s, 5s, and it's funny how I mention a 4 for our number 4.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there about obviously Silvera. I'll talk about that a bit when we got towards the end of this segment. I thought that's when Rodgers came to life. He had a bit more of a link-up play because I've got to admit, I mean, I know people a bit, yeah, you spoke about Rodgers last week. I felt a bit sorry for him Saturday because Crooks was all the way, just going round and round and round him. And then every time Rodgers went forwards, Crooks followed him, and there was a bit of a, but it was just the simple stuff we were letting go in the first half. I don't know what you thought, John Don. I mean, some of the passing out in the first half, the simple passes were going a bit astray for me.
Yeah, there was a couple of players particularly guilty of that. But you mentioned about Rodgers there, and I'll agree with Steve Dixon. He's not a number 9. I think he's more of your attacking centre midfielder, or he can play number 9 on his own. I think that was evident.
I think that's why I felt sorry for him, to be honest, because I think Crooks was supposed to be the number 9 on Saturday. I think he was supposed to be the target man, and he did nothing but for me. I thought he wandered out a bit too much for my liking.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen us spread the game wide a little bit more. We went through the middle quite a lot, and to be fair, their centre halves had it fairly easy against Rodgers, because they were far stronger than him. They bullied him a little bit. But even when we were getting even when it did go wide and we eventually got crosses into the box, they weren't of the quality that we've been used to last season. And there was nobody there anyway, so it was a little bit of a wasted outlet. Like I say, the game in general was below par for us. But we'll improve. We'll improve a lot, especially when we get more signings into the club.
Did it not surprise you, lads, like you say there about trying to get the ball in the box a little bit more, and their centre halves, sort of physically wise, being able to dominate Rodgers? I was at one when they scored last 20 minutes. If Akpom's fit enough to be on the bench, surely he's fit enough to play 20 minutes. And regarding the physicality, I would have put Coburn on as well for the last 20 minutes. I don't know about you lads, but what we were doing for 70 minutes wasn't working. Just try something a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? For 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Well, our bench was quite strong, wasn't it, when you looked at it?
Oh, yeah.
The bench was strong. Now, yeah, why those players you mentioned there, John, didn't come on? I don't know, because Silvera made a hell of a difference when he come on. He looked lively. He had the beating of his man when he had the one-on-ones, and he linked up well with the rest of the team. He looked very, very bright, and he could have scored an amazing goal. He just sort of toe poked the ball through the legs of a Millwall defender and then lashed it towards the top corner, just a little bit too high, unfortunately. That would have been a fantastic debut goal, and it would have sent the stadium mad. But it wasn't to be. But yeah, he was a bright spark, and he was a positive to take from Saturday's game.
Yeah, well, we've got another Facebook comment. I think, forget my pronunciation of this, I think it's Jaco Jacobson, who's put, the dominant observation was that we lacked so much pace. Silvera instantly gave us some dynamism. Good word, by the way. And I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I thought it was disappointing on Saturday as well, from the point of view from Jonathan Woodgate and Michael Carrick on watching that first half. It clearly wasn't working, and I don't know how they couldn't see that Rodgers was going to struggle up front against the Millwall centre halves, like I said last week. And it was evident in the first half it wasn't working, and we needed to change it. And I thought they were too slow to make the changes in the game, to try and change the way Middlesbrough were playing. We hung on too long doing the same thing. And when Millwall scored, we didn't have a lot of time to get back into the game. And how Sammy Silvera hasn't been able to start in that team on Saturday is beyond me, because when he come on, he was a breath of fresh air. not just his pace, but just his touch, his skills. He was creating stuff. They were frightened of him. You could see they were standing off him. Like John said, he had a great effort just over the crossbar, which would have, you know, took the roof off the stadium. And I thought, how has this guy not got on the pitch before now? You know, and I also agree with the two of you as well regarding Chuba Akpom and Josh Coburn. If they're not fit, they shouldn't be anywhere near the bench. If they're on the bench, that means that they're fit enough to play a part in the game. And if they're, you know, fit enough to play a part in the game, they should be on the pitch when Middlesbrough are losing 1-0 with 10, 15 minutes to go. You know, it was poor all over the shop on Saturday, from management right through to the performance of the players. And touching on Dan Barlaser, in pre-season, Matt Crooks done a video diary, and in his video diary, he said that he thought that Dan Barlaser looked like Sid the Sloth off Ice Age. Well, I thought Michael Carrick picked Sid the Sloth off Ice Age on Saturday, because did he not know Middlesbrough were playing in red? He had an opportunity there, and not for the first time, he hasn't taken it. And Johnny Howson come on the pitch at 35 years of age with no pre-season for about 12 minutes. He had the crowd off the seats. He had the crowd chanting. He had a little bit of, you know, will to win, a little bit of, you know, old school clenching of the fist, putting a few tackles in, passing the ball to a red shirt. And he was like a world beater for 12 minutes. And that was just to show how poor Dan Barlaser was. This is a guy that we've spent £1.5 million on to come to Middlesbrough, back to the northeast, because he's from Newcastle, the same as me. He should be absolutely loving being at Middlesbrough Football Club and the chances he's getting. And I'm yet to see him do anything since he's turned up to Middlesbrough Football Club of any note. The game's just passing by. And I don't mean that to be unkind. But he offers nothing. He's got no pace. He's not creating anything. He's not taking people on. He's not putting tackles in. You know, I mean, I really don't understand what he's bringing to the table. At Rotherham, he was the assist king. I mean, I might be wrong. How many assists has he had since he's been in Middlesbrough? One? None? So he needs to massively, you know, improve his game. These are players that are supposed to take the place of Johnny Howson. He's nowhere near a Johnny Howson. Nowhere near. And he needs to have a look at himself and up his game. Yeah,
but you're not being unkind, Steve, are you?
No, I'm being honest.
Do you know what though? Honest, we're not particularly. We can only comment on what we see. And I said it at the back end of last season about Barlaser. And when you mentioned last week, I think I said last week, when a few of you would have had him in the team due to injuries, fair enough. I'm like Steve. I've seen absolutely nothing of the lad. It's not been unkind. It's down to him to prove to us what he can do. I said the same about Piero, who for some reason a large section of our fan base seem to love, yet I've seen nothing off him either. You know, if he can't get in that team ahead of Dan Barlaser, what does that tell you about Martin Piero? Do you know what I mean? The manager we all seem to love sees them in training every day, and he can't get in ahead of him.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. It was, I mean, it was poor all the way down. I thought the substitutions were a bit weird as well. I mean, I said straight away to you after the game, didn't I? How Crooks managed 87 minutes, I was unsure of. I would have put, he'd been my first sub, to be quite honest. I know you usually say, well, Barlaser should have been. He would have been for me, just to give us a bit of life up front. Maybe even put Force up front and then stick Silvera on the wing and have Rodgers with a bit of link up between the wing and actually in front of him, because there was no cohesion, there was no relationship between him and Crooks at all that game, which was really wasn't good to see, and it gave Millwall no threat. But go on.
I mean, I think the game was harsh on Hackney and McGree, because last season, when we were flying, they had options all over the pitch for where to lay the ball off. Yeah. Yet they were getting the ball, they were making space for themselves, yet there was nowhere to pass the ball to. And McGree, especially with his creativity, that's what he thrived on last season. But it seemed like we didn't have the options up front. Now, whether that's players getting used to new players, new surroundings, whatever, it just didn't work. Yet, as we've all alluded to, We had Isaiah Jones on the bench, Coburn, Chuba Akpom, Howson. We had decent strength on that bench where we could have changed things. And like where you said you would have had Crooks off, I'd have taken Barlasser off at half time, me.
Yeah, he said
on Saturday.
Yeah, he said that's on Saturday.
I don't know why. He must have thought we were playing in white because
Oh,
every pass in the first half went to Millwall.
yeah.
Now, you can say all you want that a manager might ruin a player's confidence or whatever, but that manager gets paid to get results and what he sees on the pitch. And if they're not putting it in, whether it's 45 minutes or 20 minutes, get them off and give us the best chance to win. Now, I hope Barlasser goes on to have an amazing season, like what Chuba's done in the past to all of us. I hope it happens, but he's got to provide an awful lot more than he did on Saturday.
Yeah, I thought we waited too long to bring Isaiah Jones on as well for the right hand side, and giving us a bit of pace down there because Paddy didn't have any pace down that right. There was no pace on that right hand side at all Saturday for me.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but imagine Silvera, Isaiah Jones, and Matt and Force through the middle. I think we'd have seen a completely different game on Saturday. But again, the manager gets paid to make decisions. We're just football fans who watch the game. We have our view. It's not personal. It is what it is.
I would imagine if you're Michael Carrick, to be honest, just to keep in tandem with the last two managers we've had in Neil Warnock and Chris Wilder, he's probably sitting at the moment as a rookie manager disappointed in what's going on behind the scenes. I think he would have thought by this stage of the season, he would have had one or two more what you would class as first 11 players signed up by now. And I think the club, like I've said, have got this tendency now to wait for loans, buy too many loans. The loans leave Middlesbrough Football Club and we just go around in a circle where we're rebuilding every year because, if we're going to do that again this year, which is looking likely, I've got no doubt Middlesbrough will improve the squad moving forward. We'll get some great Premiership loans in. We'll start to do better. But if we don't get promoted again, those players will leave and round we'll go. And I just think this policy is a real gamble to keep doing every year. We're improving players, but we're not improving the club because Aaron Ramsey, as I say, done great for us. Ryan Giles done great for us. Cameron Archer done great for us. They could all end up in the Premier League this year, but Middlesbrough in the Premier League. We've enhanced their profile, but not got promoted. And it looks like we're going down that road again. But
the teams that went up, Steve, they had loan players. It's where you get part of your squad, and sometimes it's the loan players that give you that extra quality, because you're tending to get loan players from bigger clubs and more successful clubs, and you're getting them with a view of the loanee club for their player to get experience in a lower division, so that they can progress and then eventually become first team players at their parent club. So the loan system is to get that extra little bit of quality in. And like I said, the three teams who got promoted last year all had loan players in their first team that got promoted.
But I would like to start the season with a little bit more, like we've signed Senny Dieng and we've signed Riley McGree in the past for a couple of £1 million. And I've got no doubt Darragh Lenihan, we signed him from Blackburn. I would rather went down the route of signing 4 or 5 more players like that and starting the season a little bit stronger and a little bit more settled. And then maybe if we need to add loan players, add them in January. Because I'm fed up with Middlesbrough starting the season, like I keep saying, like a broken record, playing catch up. Now we've started off, it's only one game. Let's not get carried away. There's 45 to go. Totally get that. But we've got a tough game against Coventry at home in the next league game. If we lose that, we're 6 points adrift straight away. And then the pressure starts to mount, and then it goes 9 points and what have you. And I just wish Middlesbrough would start to try and get a few more players in contracts, whether they're free agents, whether they cost you a couple of £1 million like Riley McGree did, and start the season in a little bit of a more stronger position. So add the loan players to go on.
I completely agree with what you're saying, Steve. Right.
That's my saying, what you do.
Okay. I completely agree with what you're saying. But do you not think that this club is trying to bring in players on permanent transfers? Because for me, there will be. So So what do? You caught between a rock and a hard place. Do you settle for somebody that's of a lesser quality or less potential who we can possibly sell on for more in the future? Or do you wait a couple of weeks to possibly bring them players in? I get where you're coming from, and I agree with you in regards to being a couple, like 9 points, you could be 9 points behind. But this club will be trying to bring in those type of players that you're talking about. I totally think there's no way Gibson and Kieran Scott are not trying to do that, in my opinion. Has it happened? No, but they must be trying.
I agree.
Well-
I totally agree with you, John. Yeah, for some fans to think that our club is sort of like not pursuing the right type of player, I'm sure they are. But, you know, because, you know, there's nothing happening. The perception is that nothing's going on. I bet you there's frantic activity, and we don't hear about the players who we are chasing, who have, for whatever reason, decided not to join us and move elsewhere or stay with the club. Yeah, we don't hear about the non-deals, and I want them. I want them at our club as quickly as possible. But if the selling club or if the loaning club are not prepared to do that, we can't force the issue. We do have to be a little bit patient, and I'd rather be patient for that extra bit of quality if it's going to help our team greater than a makeshift signing.
What about the expense of losing points every week, John? How many points do you lose before you say, actually, maybe you would have been better off getting a couple of players on with slightly less quality, who would have been playing them games, making them stronger, getting points on the board?
Well,
if they're weaker, how are they stronger?
No, what I'm saying is because the players I've just mentioned there, Darrell Lenihan, we've signed him. Riley McGree, we've signed him. Senny Dieng, we've signed him. What I'm saying is, why can't Middlesbrough pursue players of that quality that might not be quite a Ramsey or an Archer, but they're really good players at this level, and sign more of those? And then if we start the season well on the front foot and get some points on the board and are challenging, then in January, if you think you've got a sniff of the playoffs or the promotion top two, you can then say, we'll push the boat out to the Premiership clubs and try and get the cream of the crop from the Premiership clubs to push the boat out. But what I'm sick of is we're starting the season not making enough first team 11 signings and doing a patch up job, and the points go begging. And it happens every year. We'll play a catch up, and that's all I'm saying. I mean, I tell you what, we're live on Facebook anyway now. So everybody listening, everybody watching, just, you know, message in. Would you rather go down the route of a few more signings to the club who might have slightly less quality, but would make us stronger now to get some points on the board and then address the situation in January? Or would you rather wait until September to get a couple of Premiership loans in with more quality, but we might be 9-10 points adrift to the top two?
Or do you wish that we didn't have the injuries to 4 or 5 key players that would have made our starting 11 on Saturday strong enough to easily dispense of Millwall?
But we've known about those injuries for weeks. They're not new injuries. Johnny House and Tuber Akpom have been injured all pre-season. So that hasn't derailed our plans. We've known that.
Yeah, but the 2 fullbacks have, you know.
The right back situation's unlucky. That was unlucky. The right back situation, dead unlucky. Absolutely agree.
How big's this list I'm putting on Facebook, by the way? Like, how many options am I putting up?
I mean, like I say, I agree with a lot of things that Steve says, but I can't think of a player that's gone to the Championship for a reasonable price that we could possibly afford that I've thought, I'd have loved him at Middlesbrough. I can't think of one player that's gone to a club in the Championship at this moment. I mean, I don't know about you lads. Have you seen anyone that's went somewhere else in the Championship that you thought that price is a bargain? We could have afforded it. Why weren't we in for him? I haven't seen anyone. Have you, Steve? Have you, John?
Well, we don't know, but there's players abroad as well we can bring in as well, take a chance on as well, who may do it. You know, there's lots of options. There's a huge world out there of footballers. They're not all just in the Premier League. And I wish a few years back we bought Kike, didn't we? Kiki, a couple of £1 million. We brought Kiki in. Excellent signing. We brought Stuani in. Excellent signing from abroad.
Stuani.
You know, we've done this in the past, and it's worked. And those were both signings as well. But now it all seems to be we've got to go down the loan route. And it's got to be Premiership loans and all this carry on. Let's just get players in, so we'll start the season with a settled side, settled squad. Start the season well, and all being well, if we're challenging in January, let's add to it then with some loans.
Steve, you mentioned 2 or 3 there that were successful. You can mention twice as many that were unsuccessful. You know, last season, Hoppy, we've loaned him out twice. It just hasn't worked for him here. I guarantee that the club are not just resting on their laurels. They'll be looking at players. Scott and Carrick, they'll have their list. So what do you want them just to boost the numbers with anybody?
No, absolutely not.
Who would be anybody who would be average player in the Championship? Or do you want to think, like, just bide our time, wait a little while and try and get players who will be better than what we could have got for £1.5 million, for example, as a fee?
Yeah, I get your point. I totally get your point. But to me, it just happens every season, every year, and we'll pay the price. And I just think there's players out there that we could get in now for fees, for decent wages, that to me would get us in a better position moving forward. The one about that Bangura, weren't they? From Holland, the left back. Apparently Middlesbrough linked with him. 3 or 4 Championship clubs are linked with him in Holland. He was 500,000, 750,000.
Do you know about him?
Well, if Middlesbrough rate him, go and get him.
Well, who's to say? We haven't had anything concrete to say that Middlesbrough are chasing him. It's all sort of press speculation. Could be driven by the agent. There could be a semblance of truth in it. We don't know that. We don't know. To be honest, the way the club work is that generally they keep things very tight. I was speaking to a couple of people at the weekend who I know have, shall we say, contacts within the club, and they said there's nothing coming out. They're keeping things really tight now, whereas few years ago, everything, we knew it was coming to the club because it was leaked well in advance.
I hope you're 100% right, and I hope, you know, in the next 2 weeks there's 3 or 4 top signings come in, because at the moment where we sit now with this squad, even with Howson and Juba coming back, we're nowhere near. Like I said last week, we're 9th, 10th best by at best for me. I've watched games this weekend, Coventry and Leeds and different games. They all look better than us straight away in the first game I've watched. They look slicker, they look quicker, they've got more about them. We're in for a real tough season if we don't bring in my opinion, before the window shuts, 4, possibly 5 top players, and I mean good players. I'm talking about like the players we've had leave with, in Aaron Ramsey and Archer and Giles and Zach Steffen. I'm talking about top players coming in. If we don't get another 4 of those, we're in for a real shock this season, because we're nowhere near. We might play a lovely football with Michael Carrick and passing the ball about and all that, but if we haven't got the end product, and we haven't got the goals, and we haven't got the assists in the team, we will not finish anywhere near where Middlesbrough fans were hoping for this summer. And I'm desperate for Middlesbrough to bring in some quality, because we're lacking it. If people can't see that, you're deluding yourselves.
I'm not deluded, by the way. We lost 16 or 17 of our first games under Wilder last year, and we turned it around. We've lost 1 at the weekend. Injuries coming back will improve the squad. Signings coming in will improve the squad. I'm not as downbeat as you, Steve.
I'm not downbeat. I'm just being honest.
I'm being honest.
I want Middlesbrough to be top of the league, flying, you know, playing great football, scoring goals. And after last season, I think a lot of Middlesbrough fans thought this season, with Michael Carrick having the full 46 games, you know, getting his own players in, Steve Gibson was backing to the hilt in the transfer market, And for whatever reason, so far, it hasn't happened. Whether it's been true about broken promises with Ramsey and Giles and thinking they were going to get Archer, I don't know. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened. And we're miles off. And I'm sure behind the scenes, Michael Carrick at the moment is disappointed with how it's gone, because he must look at that squad and think, we're nowhere near a top 6 squad at the moment. We can be, but we need to start getting players in as soon as possible, because if you're playing against Middlesbrough at the moment, there's glaring omissions in that starting 11 and huge flaws that you can exploit, and the teams will exploit it.
We know that. We know that we're not the finished article. Fully aware of that. But we by no means as bad as you're making out here. We'll get the players in. We'll get the players back to fitness. Hopefully, Chubarak Pump stays, and we'll have a better season than you're predicting there.
Well, all I've said is, to be fair, as it stands now, with the squad we've got now,
but it's not going to stand like this now, though, is it?
No. Well, that's what I'm saying. But it depends. I'm saying if we bring, like I've said, if we bring 5 players in, of course we can make the playoffs. Never crack at it. But they're going to have to be top quality players for that to happen. That's all I'm saying. At the minute, we're miles off.
Can I just say, I'm loving being a bystander. It's normally me that's involved in these conversations. Keep going, lads. Again, lads, you know what I mean? We've all got different opinions on how we want the club to be successful, but ultimately we all want the same thing. So, you know.
Listen, I know John Donovan. He's one of the most passionate Middlesbrough fans I know. And he's going to defend the club to the hilt and the players to the hilt. Of course he is. And, you know, I'm just trying to give an alternative opinion and how I see it going. I want the best of Middlesbrough as well. The club's in me blood. I love them just the same as John does and the same as you do, Cuts. But I can't not be honest. I've got to say how I see it. And I know John is, but John's just so bloody passionate. He thinks Middlesbrough will win every game.
No, I want them to. I don't think they will, but I want them to, yeah. But I'm not blinkered. I can see the issues, but also I think they're surmountable, and we'll get the players in and we'll get players back from injury. That will make us a strong championship team. That's what I'm saying. So
yeah.
I'm not losing me crap over a 1-0 defeat at the weekend.
100%. I'm with you there. I totally agree with that.
Well, while you think, by the way, I'm passionate about the club as well. You forgot my bloody name. So. But while you think about it's all right. While you think about that, I'm going to let this guy just break up a little bit.
Hello, it's Leo, and you are listening to the 12-Man podcast.
There you go. It's always good to hear from the big man, isn't it?
That's all we needed. A nice, serene voice to bring us all back down to reality.
He was in great form on Saturdays. I
was going to say you bumped into him. How was he? Was he
in great form. He was very positive. He was, in this together. He might as well have been beating his chest. He was in great form. He was, yeah.
He left us with a up the borrow.
He did, to be fair. Yes.
So, Cuts, didn't you take him to Flares?
No, no. I'm not sure that's my cup of tea anymore than man Leo's.
But this way you looked after you in there.
Telling me he would have. But he was in great form. You'll hear from Leo as the season goes on. He's doing well.
He's a point I mentioned to Steve. Like, we'll have to move on quickly, but I didn't see last season. Woody was on the sideline quite a lot. I didn't see him once come on the sideline and Saturday. Did anyone else?
I've actually got an answer for this. Can I take this one, lads?
You can.
Thank you. There's a rule now in the EFL. There's something came in that not too many people can stand on the touchline anymore. So literally, it was Carrick, and that's about it.
All right. Okay.
So it was literally he was sat on the bench. He was sat on the bench.
It's one at the time, isn't it, in the technical area because of shenanigans.
Well, he was on the bench. He was nearly joined by Duncan Watmore, wasn't he? That was funny. That
Brilliant. He played well Saturday, by the way, didn't he?
He is what he is. He works his socks off, and I just wish the lad the best of luck, and hopefully he has an injury-free season this year.
Yeah, same here. But we do. We really do need to move on. So I'm going to get your man of the matches out of the way. I'll start with you, Dicko, to get the lighter bit out of the way, and then we'll try and upbeat it a little bit more.
I thought the only 2 plus points on Saturday. I thought it was a confident debut by Senny Dieng. I thought he was confident what he had to do. His kicking was good and he made a big save. So I thought Sammy Silvera come on and looked really bright and a real good prospect. But he was only on for a short period of time. So I'll give it to Dieng for having the steady debut.
John Don?
Yeah, I'll do the same. Dieng, he had absolutely no chance with the goal. It was a superb finish.
Nobody even mentioned the goal, have we?
Well, exactly. I mean, what did you want Paddy to do? I know what I wanted him to do. He either
put him in the stands.
Well,
yeah.
he either makes the challenge and takes everything out, or he doesn't make the challenge. And I know the guy would have bent him for pace, but you can't do that. 5 yards inside your own half. Unless you're going to take him out, you don't make a challenge there. And the guy had all the time in the world to pick his cross. And is it SA or SE?
Yeah.
Finish.
Yeah.
What a finish! Absolutely top corner. Dieng had no chance. And like you say, I digressed a little bit, but Dieng man of the match for me.
No, I'm glad you digressed because no one mentioned the goal. So, but yeah, it was a cracking finish, wasn't it? So,
18-year-old kid, him as well. Looked like a good prospect.
Yeah, he came straight out of the academy as well. He's big fan favourite with Millwall as well. They spoke really highly of him, their fans. So yeah, he's got a big future, I think, that kid. Cut.
Dan Barlasser. No, I'm only joking. I'm going to give it a Riley McGree. He didn't have many options up front, but I think him and Hackney were probably our two best players. I'll give it a McGree for his work rate.
Sound? What we do?
Right, it's a shame because we had a lot of shots in the first half, especially from Force coming in from the right and onto his left foot. He had about 3 or 4 shots that he didn't connect with. They didn't sort of trouble the keeper, but he did. He scored from similar positions last year, doing the same thing, and it was just a shame that we couldn't see one of them fly into the net. And I thought Force tried, but it was a difficult game.
Never mind.
Well, one of our listeners apparently says Sheffield United are ready in a move for Akpom. Luke Boy.
I think he's a week behind because I'm pretty sure that bid came in last week.
Oh, well.
So next week, if you want to let us know what you thought of the Millwall game, we'll let you.
That's tongue in cheek, by the way, Luke. Keep listening.
I know, yeah. How to start?
How to alienate the listeners.
Yeah.
Oh, people know I'm good fun. But right, so we move on. Right,
Yes,
right. Cup game. We've obviously got a cup game in midweek. I'll keep this pretty brief because obviously we don't know. Obviously, Huddersfield got beat at the weekend by Plymouth. They took 1,100 fans down at Plymouth on the side. That's great going that.
Did they all stay at Neil Warnock's house? He lives down there, doesn't he?
He has them all around for a barbecue. It was good following for him, but it's a disappointing result. I think I don't want to comment too much on how they're going to do because they'll probably give us a good whacking tomorrow. But I got one word out, which is out of the pair of you, out of 3 of you. I'll start with you. Would you play the kids tomorrow? Yes or no?
I'm going to say yes. Not all the kids, but I'd make a lot of changes.
Okay. Apparently they took 1,600 Huddersfield. Fair enough. I was just someone put. I think a page put 1,100, but still it looked quite full. Fair play to them. Whoever went down. John Dom.
I'd play a mixture of youth and experience if we can, if we have the bodies. Put some kids in, but I mean, give Payero minutes, give Balassa some more minutes to try and sort it out. Yeah, so I want us to win. Obviously, I'm going to go there, and I want us to win. So I'd put in a mixture of experience and a few youngsters.
You go.
No, I wouldn't play any youngsters at all. I would maybe give the new goalkeeper Glover a game. I would like to see Alex Gilbert, Martin Piero, Sammy Silvera given a start. Isaiah Jones, get them in. Let's get our first win. Let's get a couple of goals. Get the confidence up. doesn't matter about the competition. It's about getting some confidence in the squad. You've got a lot of Middlesbrough supporters travelling down there tomorrow, and they deserve to see the team put a show on, stick a couple of goals in, get some confidence up before a very, very tough game at Coventry.
Sorry, Steve. I think it does matter about the competition. I'm not going to diss it off in the first round. And I don't want us to toss that off tomorrow because, like you say, there's over 2,000 fans going there, and you know this is the cup that we won 20 years ago. So yeah, showed a little bit of respect.
Exactly. Let's go. Take it seriously. Let's get a win. Get some confidence. The fans deserve a little bit of a tonic after Saturday.
So speaking of which, then we'll round that off by what's going to be your scorecast for tomorrow, then, boys. JD.
Oh, but by the way, I'd play the kids. By the way, I thought I'd let you know.
Well, all I'm thinking is we've only got 10 minutes left. We haven't even touched on Coventry yet with these two arguing.
Okay.
Debating.
2-0 Borough.
Who's going to score first, JD?
Bayero.
Bayero.
Why not?
Goodness.
I'll say 2-1 Middlesbrough.
First goal scorer?
Alex Gilbert.
And Steve.
0-0.
0-0.
Yeah.
Okay. 0-0.
Well, yeah, because he'll put up penalties.
That'll win us about what? We'll win about £1.
It won us more than one Saturday.
I was going to say just a little update. No money raised for charity yet. Get used to that, quote.
Yeah. Well done. With, hands up for trying. But yes, 0-0. What about you?
I'm going for Gilbert 3-1.
There you go. Right, Coventry, Saturday. John Don, it seems a bit of a familiar place, the recall, or Coventry Building Society Arena, whatever it's called these days. Are you looking forward to Saturday? Because in a way, I'm not.
Yeah, I am. I know it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, both teams started with a defeat. So they're going to obviously want to start well in front of their own fans. We need to get something out of the game just to get our sort of like season up and running. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. We always have a good trip down there. We go to the same pub and they look after us, and it's a couple of minutes from the ground. It's ideal, and so from that sense, it's a good day out. But I know the game will be tough.
Well, at least I'm getting a decent brekkie on Saturday. Happy days, right? Decent pub. I like the pub we go to. But Diggle, what's your feelings about Saturday?
I think we'll do well to come back with anything. After watching Coventry on Saturday, they lost the game late to Leicester, but
thanks for your input. Right, we'll leave you with that. Oh, go on.
No, they were very impressive actually, and they could have well won that game, and they could have won it later on as well. Just before Leicester scored, they looked the right handful. Lots of attacking options, and I think we've got a right game on Saturday. But it's another week to go. Are we going to get another player in before Saturday? Is Juba going to be able to play? Is Johnny Howson going to be able to play? Can Middlesbrough get a bit of confidence with a win at Huddersfield in between there? But it's let's be honest, it's a tough game, and I think any Middlesbrough supporter now would happily take a point.
What's your opinion on the game?
Yeah, I agree. I watched a bit of Coventry. I thought they were quite impressive. They've got a good manager there in Robbins who knows what he's doing. It'll be a really tough game, but not once this season when we do our charity bet will you see me picking the opposition for the win. So I'm going to surprise you by saying we're going to go there and we're going to nick it.
I mean, I'll get your score prediction in a minute, but would it surprise you if Howson, Akpom, Silvera, them sort of players come straight in after what we saw on Saturday?
No, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. But I think tomorrow we'll know more about Chuba because, let's be honest, he needs 60 minutes at least in his legs if he's got any chance of starting on Saturday. If he doesn't start tomorrow, I don't see him starting on Saturday. But I'd like to see him get at least an hour and hopefully bag a goal and get some confidence in.
Without starting a debate, do you think the contract situation is not helping?
Well, I mean, the player's a professional, but at the end of the day, he's got a year left on his contract. He doesn't know where he's going to be playing football this season and next season. So it probably won't be helping, but if he can get in tomorrow, get a couple of goals, you know, he's a footballer at the end of the day. His job's to do well for this football club on the pitch, whether he signs a contract or not. So if he does start, I'm expecting a professional performance. And from what we know about Chuba, I'm sure we'll get one.
Same to you, boys. I'll start with you, John Dunn. Would you put the three names I mentioned there straight
in? Yeah, obviously fitness matters. So
there's how you were saying fitness matters.
If the boss thinks that Chuba's fit enough to start, and like we said, he was fit enough to be on the bench, so he should really, give him game time, give him 45 minutes, see what he can do, get him back into the groove, so to speak. I'd start Silvera. I think he deserves to get more game time after that brief show that he put on Saturday.
Vandenberg in as well.
Yeah, I would. I would have him at one of the full-back positions. So they're the types of player that should come in, and I agree with Steve Dixon. Put one of the goalkeepers in, either Glover or guy from Wigan. What's his name?
Jamie Jones.
Jones, yeah. So obviously going to be a few changes, but I want us to see a strong team tomorrow, and you know, really to up our game, because I didn't think we were we were hungry enough. I know we will have been, but it just didn't give me that impression. I want us to snap into tackles. I want us to really chase the ball. I want us to look like we want to win this one.
Yeah, that's what was missing Saturday, John, wasn't it? You're 100% right there. That was what was missing on Saturday. I think if we had a few what looked like more committed players, and like you see, a few more tackles flying in and things like that, I think we probably would have accepted the defeat a bit more easily. But it seemed that it was like a pre-season friendly, wasn't it? You know, and I think that's what sort of they give the impression. I'm sure they weren't, but it gave the impression that we weren't really at it, and that was a disappointment.
That's it. It seemed like we weren't sort of on the front foot. It was like we were going through it a little bit. So I want to see a bit more tomorrow.
Right, I've got a minute to get your predictions out of you. Right, I'll start with you, Dicko. Prediction for Saturday.
I'll go 1-1.
Best goal scorer?
Ellis Sims. Middlesbrough come back and get a point.
Former Mackham. Mint. John Dom?
1-0 Middlesbrough.
Lovely.
Johnny Howson.
Oh, Jesus, I'll be chucking Pete down the stairs.
Listen. I'm just looking at the best odds. He might not even play. Who knows?
But it'll go on the score itself if we win 1-0, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
Cut.
I'm going Force 2-1.
I thought you were going to say 4-0 then.
No.
I thought he was going to say 4 there.
Well, you can laugh, but Luke Boy's put Coventry 1 Borough 4, so let's hope he's right.
Well,
that'll do, won't it?
Yeah. You're both sharing a bong.
I'll have what he's happened.
How are you, Steve?
2-1 Borough. Hamer first goal.
Hamer?
Yeah, Gustavo Hamer. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a brilliant player. I don't think he'll be at Coventry very long. I'll say that. I thought he'd have left before now with Gyökeres, but
let's hope he goes this week.
So that's 3 wins and a draw out of 4 of us. We all know what's going to happen now, don't we? Good night.
1-0 Coventry. But yes, on that note, we will say good night. The fellas, thank you so much for popping on and saying hello and arguing and getting your points of view across. It's always good to listen to you talk, and I'll talk to you during the week. And John Don, I'll see you for the footy during the week. Good, thank you so much.
Pleasure as always, boys.
Yeah, and thank you very much for our listeners. And I'll leave you with this jingle and say good night. Up the Borough.
Up the Borough.
Up the Borough, boys.
Thank you for listening to the 12th Man podcast. Hope to see you all again next week. Hope the Borough